Good afternoon, everybody. If you can find a seat, please take a seat. Good afternoon, everybody. Do you remember Good afternoon, everybody. Do you remember when you were at school and you would sit cross-legged on the floor? I feel that we might have to use our built-in seats for people around the edge. It is what nature gave us, and if you're able to use your built-in seat, I highly recommend that you do that. Thank you for piling into this room. It means that you are truly committed. And now our program is about to start.
Ijuso kanabamba po ayefutuo nidiatinya mane adatulo yo wahmalumnar kon paka iklan seti naror muchel chikeni chili daf ñu war tekla ada bax na wat bilorema waxuma ci dara FGM the forward end of a what a FGM the forward end you look out jungle jige the forward wow jungle jige jungle jige to feel I came complete, so let me live my life to the fullest. I need no chains to bound my sensations. I deserve to have it all. Cause no more pain, no more crying, no more bleeding. Cause no more trauma. Say no more, I deserve to have it all. Cause FGM ends with me. Then you feel joke heli lun songa dan mbolo moy dole adak chosan waru to lore bul talk so gise ku koy def nanko bole yermande way bu ko togn ndaki halela yo bu ko yobu ndax fu muy mbuje moy suma yegon bu magge ba ragné na lin ko defon du yon dina la mere trauma munna tax mu tagok sa go
That video was made by artists from Gambia, and the song is Cut No More. Thank you, CSW68 delegates and attendees, for committing yourself to being in an intimate space to talk about an intimate, sensitive issue. Financing the elimination of FGM is what we will be doing for the next 75 minutes. My name is Femi Oke. I am your moderator. When I see so many collaborators on one program, I know that that program is destined for success. Let me tell you who are the co-partners and the co-hosts today. Government of Italy, Government of Burkina Faso, United Kingdom, UNFPA, UNICEF, World Bank, Girl Generation, and of course, every single advocate that is in this room right now. Thank you so much for your commitment. I love this title because it has hope. Financing the elimination of FGM. FGM. We have simultaneous translation from English into French, French into English. You will find that at number 2 on your little section here in front of you, your microphone section in front of you. This high-tech piece of instruments here, this is what you will put to your ear. So if anyone is speaking French, you will hear English if you need to, or vice versa. We are going to be talking about difficult, challenging issues. So I want to introduce you to Layla. Layla, would you just put your hand up, and would you stand up as well? All right. Layla is a therapist, and Layla, if you're having any difficulty, you need to spend time with her, you want to leave the room, Layla is here for you. So I just want you to see where she is so you can have that conversation should you need to. All right, we have so much to get done, so I'm going to start with opening remarks. They will be brief and brilliant. The briefer, the more brilliant we will deem them to be. His Excellency Ambassador Maurizio Massali is the permanent representative of Italy to the United Nations, and Councillor Lara Menicucci is head of the Department for Equal Opportunities of the Presidency of the Council of Ministers for Italy. Thank you, please.
Thank you very much, Femi. I'll try to be short, hopefully brilliant, at least in part. Dear colleagues and friends, female genital mutilation still persists as a modern-day scourge. It is unacceptable that every year millions of girls and women are subject to this inhuman practice that has irreversible consequences on their health and physical and psychological development. The fight against every form of violence and discrimination against women, particularly practices such as female genital mutilation, is a fundamental priority for Italy in terms of its national policy as well as in its commitment to the protection and promotion of human rights within the international arena. According to the recent data provided under the UNFPA and UNICEF joint program, in 2024, over 200 million girls and women alive today are survivors of FGM, and nearly 4.4 million girls, more than 12,000 a day, are at risk of undergoing FGM around the world. Much to our dismay, this figure is projected to rise to 4.6 million in 2030. This data makes our meeting today all the more compelling. To rapidly invert this trend, female genital mutilation must be tackled not only through targeted measures, but also through policies that can change norms, harmful stereotypes, and unequal power structures. It is also crucial to ensure that the perspectives of women and girls in general, and survivors in particular, are actively involved in drafting these policies. It is for this reason that I am particularly honored by the participation of Amran. And I'm sure that the testimonies and the ensuing discussions today will be a first important step toward leveraging our commitment and achieving as quickly as possible the goal of zero FGM. And I thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me thank the government of Burkina Faso, the government of the United Kingdom, UNFPA, UNICEF Joint Program on the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation, the World Bank, and the Girl Generation support to the Africa-led movement to end FGM for this important event. I'm here today together with the Ambassador Massari because combating all forms of violence and abuse against women and girls is indeed one of the priorities of the Italian government, both domestically and in foreign policy. In this context, Italy reaffirms its unconditional commitment to the elimination of FGM. I will skip the data, so I will try to be as brief as possible. But I want to say that we still feel the urgency of empowering girls and women to fulfill their rights, also by raising awareness on harmful gender-biased social norms. To this end, Italy works together with all the Italian development cooperation system stakeholders, as well with our international partners, to promote women's fundamental rights and achieve full gender equality and real women's empowerment. In the framework of the 2024 Italian G7 presidency, we are firmly committed to taking significant steps towards eliminating harmful practices, ending early and forced marriage, and of course FGM, and facilitating access to sexual and reproductive health and rights services in ordinary times, as well in emergencies and conflicts. But ending this practice requires the effort of everybody, institutions, civil society, communities, families, and all of us. Italy, so, I say it again, reiterates its full commitment to global, regional, and country levels within the competent international organization, starting with the United Nations and in bilateral relation with third countries affected by this phenomenon. We proactively work to negotiate the resolution to be adopted by the UNGA and the Human Rights Council based on cooperation with the African Group and with other Arab countries. And we pursue advocacy and awareness raising by supporting the International Day on Zero Tolerance against FGM. The most recent data show that also in Italy, a high number of girls are at risk of FGM. So, since 2006, in Italy, an important law has been adopted. FGM is a crime. And in 2018, national guidelines have been approved to support the operators to detect FGM and help girls and help the victims. More recently, with a view to strengthening cooperation with the civil society, our department, the Department for Equal Opportunities, launched a public call for collaboration for private sector organizations working in this field. And based on this, in 2024, we will carry out an in-depth mapping and analysis of FGM in Italy, with a view to elaborating an integrated communication plan to raise awareness also at national level. In our partner countries, in support to their political and advocacy efforts, Italy, through its development cooperation, also supports and finances projects and programs aimed at eradicating the practice at multilateral, multibilateral, and bilateral level. Financing the elimination of FGM is not just an imperative; it is a crucial investment in the future of our world. Only by allocating resources, raising awareness, and collaborating across sectors and borders, we can build a society where every girl can live her life free from FGM and violence. Thank you.
Welcome to everybody who's watching online via UNTV. We are looking at financing the elimination of FGM by, we have a date, right? We're ambitious, 2030. If you cannot hear me, if you weren't nodding when I said 2030, you should use one of these. It amplifies my voice. I have a very loud voice. I am a Nigerian Brit. That is about the loudest you can possibly be. But if you cannot hear me around the room, you can use that little earpiece. Number 1 is English, number 2 is French. And also along the wall, there are earpieces there as well. So there is no reason for you not to be leaning into this conversation. Our opening remarks continue with our partner, His Excellency Ambassador Omaru Ganao, permanent resident representative of Burkina Faso to the United Nations. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Merci bien, Madame Femi.
Thank you very much, Ms. Femi. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to convey the greetings of Ms. Diallo, our Minister of Gender, who was not able to come to this event. So I would like to thank the organizers for their efforts and also for the quality of their organizational efforts, particularly Italy for its leadership. I would also like to thank each one of you for taking part in this event. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the commitment of 33 countries to eliminate FGM by 2030, following the international conference in Ouagadougou in 2018, we must note that the practice of FGM continues. This is due to insufficiency of resources and outdated social norms. We must unite to fight them. So SDG 5.3 aims to end excision by 2030. That has always been at the heart of our priorities. That is why investing in this initiative in the public sector has been undertaken by the Ministry in charge of Women's Affairs. And that has enabled us to carry out plans, projects, in order to eliminate the practice of excision. We should note that as regards certain social and cultural and traditional practices, efforts must be pursued in order to end excision of girls and women. Ladies and gentlemen, the major challenge before us is mobilizing resources. The COVID-19 pandemic made financing even more difficult for countries. Despite the efforts undertaken to date, complete financing of the 2022-2024 national strategy which had a budget of $700 million US, has not been assured. So there are a number of thoughts I'd like to share with you. We need bilateral and multilateral cooperation. We need shared resources for shared activities. We need to mobilize endogenous resources and involve the private sector. To conclude, I'd like to mention that we all need to work together, and I'd like to thank development partners and reaffirm Burkina Faso's commitment to pursue and intensify the fight against FGM. Thank you.
Zabuton is the Deputy Executive Director, Management, UNFPA. UNFPA and UNICEF have a joint program together. We will find out what joining forces actually means for them. Andrew, please, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. His Excellency Ambassador Mauricio Massara, Permanent Representative of Italy to the United Nations. His Excellency Ambassador Umar Ghanou, Permanent Representative of Burkina Faso to the United Nations. Councillor Laura Menucci, and my colleague Shima Sen of Italy, and my colleague Shima Sengupta of UNICEF. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. On behalf of UNFPA Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Carmen, I am honoured to represent UNFPA and to engage in this most important dialogue. The call for financing the elimination of female genital mutilation is timely and appropriate, with only 7 years left to achieve SDG 5.3. All the resources and efforts need to be pulled together to keep this global promise of ending FGM, with an estimated 27-fold increase needed to progress to achieve that target. Furthermore, an investment of $2.8 billion is needed to avert 20 million cases. This may seem high, but the cost of inaction is much higher. For the health sector alone, the annual cost of treating the health consequences of FGM is approximately $1.4 billion just across 27 countries, and that may rise by 50% by 2050 if no action is taken now. We must build on the good progress that we have already made. It is heartening to observe progress over the last 30 years, with 1 out of 3 girls under the age of 15 undergoing FGM compared to 1 in 2 in the past. The opposition to FGM practice has grown significantly from 1 out of 3 to 7 out of 10 of every woman and girl in the FGM-affected regions, who now stand in opposition to this extremely harmful practice. This progress is a testament to the tireless efforts of activists, policymakers, and communities alike, and whom we still need, even more than ever, to end this practice. There are, however, mounting challenges in the monetary and fiscal policy trade-offs on investment. With growing conflicts, wars, impacts of climate change, and global inflation, this context requires innovative approaches in financing and a focus on identifying and implementing cost-efficient and effective interventions. It is clear that the funding gap cannot be bridged through official development assistance alone, and therefore increasing long-term sustainable flows of public and private, domestic and international finance towards the elimination of FGM is a must, in order for us to deliver on our ambitions to end this harmful practice by 2030, and to ultimately deliver for all girls around the world. ODA providers, multilateral organisations, civil society and the private sector will need to work in close partnership with each other to leverage the additional financing required, domestic, international, public and private. I invite all the participants today to be bold and creative, to embrace innovative approaches. Our collective experiences and recent technological advancements to envisage financial instruments that facilitate sustainable, long-term, equitable investment decisions, again, both public and private. And I encourage us to challenge, provoke, motivate, and teach one another, as together we are more than our individual parts. As Maya Angelou states, we may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. Thank you.
Andrew, you got an around the room. We appreciate your use of literature. Thank you. Director of Child Protection in UNICEF is Seema Sen-Gupta. Seema, you wrap up our opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi, for the introduction. Ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, partners, and esteemed colleagues. I speak before you today with gratitude for the introduction and a deep sense of responsibility as we gather here on the sidelines of the 68th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. To those present in this room, and it's really great to see it spilling over, and to those joining us virtually from around the globe, I extend my heartfelt thanks. Your presence underscores the urgency and the importance of the issue at hand, and the previous speakers have all spoken to this. On behalf of UNICEF, it is both a privilege and an honor to address you on the critical topic of eliminating female genital mutilation and other harmful practices. FGM is not just a violation of human rights. It's an affront to the dignity and well-being of every girl and woman affected by it. The latest global estimates from UNICEF reveal a disturbing reality, and you all have this on your table. Over 230 million girls and women have undergone FGM. It's a 15% increase from the previous estimates. This alarming trend demands our immediate attention and action. In the face of mounting challenges to the rights of women and girls worldwide, it is incumbent upon governments to prioritize the implementation and the enforcement of laws that protect their rights. This includes robust measures to combat FGM and all forms of gender-based violence, ensuring the safety and security of the most vulnerable members of our society. While the magnitude of the challenge may seem daunting, there is cause for both concern and hope. Some countries have made significant strides in ending FGM, demonstrating that progress is possible even in the face of entrenched cultural practices. Yet, if we are to realize our vision of ending FGM by 2030, we must accelerate our efforts exponentially. This requires a departure from business as usual, and we just heard my colleague from UNFPA speak about that. It involves innovative approaches to funding and community engagement, and a steadfast commitment to amplifying the voices of survivors and promoting girls' agency. While the cost of this endeavor may seem substantial, it pales in comparison to its dividends that promises and the resources available to us, both domestically and internationally. Gone are the days where we say that FGM is a practice in a few countries in certain parts of the world. It isn't. And as we heard even from you just now, the numbers are rising all across the world. And we really need to have these innovative approaches across the globe. UNICEF stands ready to play its part in this endeavor, but we cannot do it alone. It is incumbent upon all of us gathered here today to join hands in creating a world free from the scourge of FGM. Together, we can bring about the transformative change we all seek and ensure that every girl grows up safe, free from violence, and able to fulfill her potential. Thank you once again for your unwavering commitment and dedication to this cause. Together, let us forge ahead with courage and conviction, knowing that our collective efforts can and will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your brilliant and brief remarks. We will continue with the rest of the program. I have no doubt if I took a microphone and went around this room, you would be able to give me data, figures from the communities that you work with, that are involved with or trying to tackle FGM. But what I want to share with you in the next few minutes are the latest figures, fresh in, that UNICEF have put together so that we could add that to our conversation this afternoon. Let's take a look at the video screen.
Every year, millions of girls are subjected to female genital mutilation. 2 million of them are under the age of 5. Over 500,000 undergo the most severe form of the practice. Through the Sustainable Development Goals, the world has committed to ending female genital mutilation by 2030. While efforts to eradicate FGM are meeting with some success, population growth is outpacing these inroads, especially in places where the practice is most common. Conflict and instability add to the challenges. 4 in 10 of those affected by FGM live in countries characterized by conflict or institutional and social fragility. The largest number of girls and women who have undergone the procedure are in Africa, followed by Asia and the Middle East, with smaller numbers in isolated communities and migrant populations around the world. New data reveal that over 230 million girls and women alive today have been cut, 30 million more than the last estimate in 2016. Yet, there is hope. 2 out of 3 people in places where female genital mutilation is common say they want the practice to end. But meeting the 2030 target means that the global pace of decline would need to be 27 times faster than the current rate. This demands urgent, concerted action on an unprecedented scale. This violation of human rights has no place in the 21st century. The time to act is now.
So that analysis was put together by Claudia Kappa. Claudia, where are you? Oh, great. Claudia, thank you. Really appreciate you. How long did it take? How long did you get? 20 years. I was not expecting that answer. I was up all night. Thank you. Up all night and 20 years. We appreciate you. All right, the conversation we're having this afternoon splits into two parts. And I was trying to work out what was the most important part, but that was ridiculous because the first part is investing and increasing the investment in eliminating FGM. The second part are the practitioners who are doing the work who need the funding. One can't happen without the other. You are interconnected. So let's start, though, with the investment. How do you bring more money into eliminating FGM? I'm going to introduce you to your speakers, who, again, will be, this is a theme, brilliant and brief. Alicia Herbert, OBE's Director of Education, Gender and Equality, and a Special Envoy for Gender Equality in the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom. I would love to see your business card. I'm sure it goes round and round and round. Ramatoulaye Camara, Chief of Staff, Ministry of the Civil Service and Labour for Guinea. Bonjour, madame. It's so lovely to have you. And Anna Maria Monas is the lead economist of the Gender Group for the World Bank. Those are your speakers. I'm thinking, Alicia, about funding survivor-led organizations. CSW in particular, nothing about us without us. You have to listen to the people who have survived the experience. What have you done?
Thank you very much for that, Femi. I've got 2 business cards, actually, so depending on which one of the titles. I thought I'll just be cheeky. Thank you very, very much. So, ambassadors, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, absolutely delighted to be taking part in this panel discussion today. I'm especially grateful to the survivors who are joining us to share their experiences and their recommendations, both those on this panel and those in the audience, and indeed those who may be online as well. Ending gender-based violence, empowering women and girls, and defending comprehensive sexual and reproductive health and rights are top priorities for the British government. And we set that out in our Women and Girls strategy as well as in our white paper that we published last year. The data released by UNICEF last week is a sobering reminder of the urgent need for more concerted action to end FGM, and many have already talked about and referenced that work. It's a 15% rise in the number of survivors of FGM since 2016. It is unacceptable and it must stop. That is 30 million more girls and women at risk of a lifetime of physical and psychological suffering. Nearly 4.4 million girls are at risk of FGM in 2024 alone. And I'm especially concerned about the attempts to reverse standards that exist to protect the rights of girls and women, including legislative efforts to roll back those rights. No woman or girl should ever have to endure these or any other form of violence. Yet there are also extraordinary achievements which show us that progress is possible. We need to be loud in recognizing and celebrating those countries that have driven down rates of FGM and to learn from them. Much of this is due to the work, the courage, and the leadership of survivors and activists on the front line. Their work is driving forward change from within communities and pushing back against the harmful norms that sustain this practice. But we need resources that meet the scale of the challenge, and I think an earlier presenter mentioned that. Resources that reach the communities working on the front line. And so that's why the UK was proud to establish the Girl Generation Africa-led movement over 10 years ago to support change led from within affected communities and countries. And indeed, our investment of about £35 million in supporting activists and communities that are leading change across Africa. One aspect of the programme that I especially want to highlight is the support to survivors to advocate for ending FGM within their communities and to do so safely. Through this community-based work, we are also building robust evidence of what works to tackle FGM to help us to take evidence-based solutions to scale globally. We have learned that it is essential that girls and women remain at the center, remain at the heart of our collective efforts to end FGM. We need to trust and partner with girls. We need to provide them with the safe spaces that promote their well-being and leadership, and support those in communities who are best placed to challenge the deeply embedded social norms that underpin FGM. I'm determined, and so is the British government more broadly, that working together we can support and empower all women and girls to exercise their rights, enjoy their freedoms, and achieve their potential. This feels more urgent now than ever. Thank you.
Ramatulai Camera, Madame, you have in Guinea spent some time strengthening the legal and policy framework for supporting the elimination of FGM. But what about investments, putting money into that elimination of the practice? What can you share with us?
Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, distinguished guests, the microphone is no longer. So the government of Guinea has a common program to harmonize all interventions that are related to MGF that were up to now very dispersed. This program that we have integrated in UNDAF aim to contribute to achieving the SDG 5, 15, 16, and to achieve other SDGs with the help of UNFPA and UNICEF. With this joint program, we created studies on the MGF, and they have gave us suggestions and recommendations, and this helped us for strategic plan, international strategic plan, and then an action plan for 5 years that has been put together, and to contribute with the social agents within the country. And we did activities around advocacy for the government, and using our development budget. And after many advocacy efforts, with the help financial and technical, we have created this effort, this initiative to end the MGF. And after that, we have put together $40 million. And for that, this has stopped because of the Ebola crisis. And after that, after the end of the Ebola pandemic, and the budget has been put together, and this amount has been revised up. That because we realized from 19 to 23, from 100 to 180 million US dollars. These funds allowed to support the national coordination for the campaign to end FGMs, and also to supervise. And part of this finances help to finance initiatives for awareness raising and to end with FGMs and gender-based violence, and the days for zero tolerance for the FGMs, and also against violence against women. This effort has targeted efforts for advocacy to support the government in its work against the practice of FGM. And there we have to note that we have seen a decline in this practice with the efforts of the state, the government, and the bilateral and multilateral partners, and also the participation of civil society, because people are active on the ground. For girls from 0-14, so there's a decline of over 45% to get to 39% in 2018, and that protected 6.6% of more girls, even though we think it could be accelerated further. And then from 15 to 49, we have seen a decline of 87%. And we got to 94%. We progress where every girl, every woman could be free of violence and discrimination, and the struggle against the FGMs for us to live together. We already achieved tremendous progress, and the awareness raising has increased, and the practice has been declined. Still, many girls are in danger, and we have to do more actions and to mobilize more resources to end the FGMs. We we thank all of our partners for development, and I thank you for your commitment, and thank you.
I'm really glad that Ana Maria Munoz is over on that side and I'm on this side, because what I'm going to say is a little bit cheeky. Innovative ways to address FGM and what is the World Bank doing is not a sentence I ever thought I'd ever utter. Ana Maria, what are you doing at the World Bank? Why is FGM part of your business?
So I'm going to just quote our chief economist, who just wrote a blog post saying, when women win, the world wins. So, and if that doesn't convince you, we can make an economic case. Basically, the associated costs of FGM, according to the WHO, account for about 9% or up to 30% of GDP just on health expenditures. So it makes economic sense as well. On the bank side, we have a new gender strategy, very timely, 2024-2030. And one of our key strategic goals is ending GBV, and the other is promoting women as leaders and expanding economic opportunities for women. So this is right down the alley of the business that we're planning. The new strategy not only has new goals, it also has a new framework to address gender issues. The first element of it is mobilizing innovation, and particularly here, and probably for the bank rather new, getting involved in the business of social norms. Not on trying to change social norms, but helping communities change them. And there are innovative interventions right in this area that have shown a lot of promise. There's a recent work done in Sierra Leone that showed that just bringing the information to communities about the health effects and the impacts that women have reduce the intention and the actual cutting of girls from a quarter of that community to a third of the girls. Sounds little, but it is a lot. Similarly, getting communities to discuss what would be a non-harmful way to preserve tradition. What are non-harmful ways to keep tradition, to keep culture, and to exchange and try to agree to a specific way. Part of the strategy focuses on not moving only what we know as the standard sufficient but not necessary ways to address hardcore issues. So we do financing, we pass the law, we create the service, but rarely we've been investing in more direct issues, such as increasing the awareness and the information about the law, not only about those that we are asking to go and ask for help, but with the judges, the lawyers, the health services, the teachers in the school, the community leaders, the religious leaders. So a lot of the work that our team, particularly from the legal department, has been doing is creating these manuals and this information and these awareness-raising materials. So everybody is in the business of ending FGM, and we're not only asking a girl or a mother to go and fight for that. When everybody is into this, things happen a lot easier. And the other final point, we're starting to mobilize edutainment as a tool to bring the information and the awareness more broadly to everybody, and to probably create the emotions and the feelings that these videos create on us, but on everybody. So for the bank, the main issue is that we're ready to mobilize collective action. We believe that we need to engage the private sector as much as the governments. And for us to be able to support governments, we need the civil society and the women's voices and the activist voices to bring this to the public arena, so governments feel compelled to ask us for support. So I'll leave it at that. I think I'm on time.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Survivors mobilizing their own communities to act and end FGM need support, investment, finance. I want you to take a look at the video that I'm about to show you, which is the work that Girl Generation does to support and help activists and survivors.
Our community, being a pastoral community, there are a lot of issues to do with education for the girl. Most of the traditions of the Maasai believe that when a girl is circumcised, the next step is to get married.
We support Africa-led movements to end FGMC. Granting is one of the ways in which we support efforts to end FGMC. We also have community engagements. We also do advocacy work. What granting it has enabled us to do is to reach the grassroots levels. So we've targeted grassroots organizations because they possess these local connections. They also possess or are positioned to influence because they're themselves already within those communities. So our granting mechanism seeks to ensure that we are facilitating and enabling those who very often are not positioned to access resources.
In the first time, there's a barrier of education. So their organizations are not registered. They work voluntary work. And the other issue, their networking mechanism is low.
We have several principles in the program which guides us on distribution of our resources. The organization we are supporting must have girl at the center of their work. We are making our grants accessible to the community-based organization. We provide capacity building at different stages. First, at the pre-award stage, where we bring all the grantees who've been recommended by the Grants Advisory Committee. We train them on how to apply and also how to report on the grants.
aad iyo aad markii aanu sameynay application-ka aanu hay'adda ka qaadanaynay u fududaa wax dhibaato ah iyo caqabado oo nagaga yimina ma jirin wuxuu ahaa.
The post-award is where we do capacity assessment of these organizations. We take them through capacity building, and this involves using anchor grantees who are part of the community, and these anchor grantees are able to continue giving capacity during and after the program life.
They'll be able to develop policies. We didn't have financial policies, procurement policies. We developed through the capacity building session, safeguarding policies. That's why we're able to move from small to medium, because now we have what is required and what is expected of that medium grant organization.
I believe that FGM is the gateway of violence against women. So young girl at 6 years old, most probably she was never violated. And that's the first violation that happens to her.
These resources will support girls in this region is be free from FGM, or at least to contribute ending FGM in Somaliland.
Girl generation, girl generation, kaya na jonda sholeng, marama yana ta kai, tondo yuni joyo, amgira majirasi yo community, nero ni moyo, nikishukana she yajo, marama yana ta kai, ashe ole.
Amran Ali Gabal is a survivor of FGM. Amran, you've heard a lot of talking this afternoon, like a lot. But what do you want to share with us?
Hello, everyone. Okay, my name is Amran Ali. I'm a survivor of FGM and also a child forced marriage. First, I want to thank the Girl Generation team for bringing this survivor all the way from the northern part of Kenya to CSW. I'm really grateful first, as I represent the other survivors who did not get the privilege to be here. To me, just like it was said in the video, FGM is the gateway to a form of violence to young girls. It's the first time the girl is experiencing. And it really pains a lot. I have undergone 2 forms of violence, so I know how it feels. It's really painful. A lot of sleepless nights, trauma, distress. You can't even eat food. It's so stressing. And since that day, since the day I went through that, I was young when I went through the cut, so I realized FGM is a violence when I was during 2019. That's when I started advocating against it. Coincidentally, I realized it's a form of violence when I had also undergone child forced marriage, just when I was 19. So this pain and what I went through really hurt me, and I did not want this to go through another girl also. That's when I started advocating against this. And the community I come from, sometimes it's really harsh. I come from a Somali community, whereby it's really bad for a girl to speak before men talking of FGM. I have been insulted several times for doing this. I have been advocating since 2019 to this date, and I have went through a lot of insults. Sometimes being seen as a woman who has gone out of the way of the religion, out of the way of culture. I've been seen as somebody who is trying to mislead other young girls. But I'm grateful because the work I've been doing, I've saved several girls from FGM and also child marriage, and I feel happy sometimes. I feel really happy because I don't want another girl to go through the same pain that I went through. And one thing I want to say is it's good to use the survivors to end FGM, because these are the shoe wearers. They know where it pinches the most. We understand how it feels. And I think we are the best people to be used to end this form of violence. The place that I come from, FGM is at 83, prevalence is at 83, which means people have still not realized it's a crime, because that's why they are doing it, despite the fact knowing this is a crime and the Constitution illegalizing it. So what I want to say is, since 2019, I have realized there are three types of people that can be used to end FGM. To me, that's what I have, the research that I have done. One are the religious leaders. These are people the community follows the most. These are the people, if they tell us to go through this way, we go through that way. So in my community, they have been using the religious leaders, and have seen, that's why even in our community it has reduced all the way from 96% to 83%. Sometimes it's because of the religious leaders that have been doing this. The other people that can be targeted are the school-going children. You know, when you're young and you're told this is wrong, you adapt to what you have been told. We used to listen to what our teachers tell us when we were young. And these are the people we can be using. I've realized sometimes, just some few weeks ago, when we were celebrating the International Zero Tolerance Day, and, you know, we talked to the children and told them the effect of FGM and all this. And when I went back home, some women approached me. I was told, what have you been teaching our kids? Because, you know, they came home and telling them, don't touch our private parts. You're not supposed to do this. FGM is a human rights violation. And I was approached and told, what are you telling our girls? What are you telling them? Why are they talking this nonsense, you know? But I was happy. To me, I was really happy because I felt I never used to do that when I was young. So when they do it now, the parent will be scared and they will no longer be able to do this, because children are people who they don't hide things. They just come and tell you things. and that people have realized can be used also to end to eliminate FGM are the reform circumcisers. I'm sorry, in Somali there's a word we say. We say, I'm going to say it in Somali. It said, "Jinni ninki kena bihiya." This means Jinni is a Satan. Satan is Jinni in Somali. So it means I don't know how to explain this. Like, if you have brought a problem upon a community, it's you who knows how to remove that problem now. So the reform circumcisers are people who, when today they go to the community and tell them, we used to be the ones who used to do the cut, and we no longer want to do it because we have realized it's a harmful practice, the community will listen to them. They will say, these are the people who used to do the cut, and they are the same people telling us you should not be doing. So I've realized the reform circumcisers can do a really good work in eliminating FGM. I've been given 3 minutes, and I'm trying to utilize. I hope I haven't finished my 3 minutes. Yes.
And we love you so much, and we're going to say thank you. Is there one more thought?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, Amran, now you've got 12 minutes because 2 of that was applause. All right, thank you for making trouble in your community. We appreciate it. That's kind of what we're talking about in this session now, which is supporting and mobilizing communities. Who has the experience? Who does that? You've met one person who does. That's Amran. You may recognize her from the video. Jacinta Muteshi Stran is a team lead of the Girl Generation Africa-led movement. You'll also be hearing from, in a moment, Umu Kahiri Jallo, and also Caleb Okoyo, also from Girl Generation. But Jacinta, can you start us off, first of all, that idea of mobilizing a community? How do you even start?
Thank you, Femi. I actually want to start by highlighting that very framing of that question. How do you mobilize? And it is mobilizing that actually sets the ethics of how we work. So when I say we, meaning the TGG-ALM program that you've heard mentioned already. In other words, those words are a recognition that it is communities themselves that set in motion the social transformation needed to promote and protect the rights of women and girls. So what we are learning as we intervene, because that's what we really are doing, we're intervening in the lives of communities, is to set up the conditions that are enabling for local mobilization for action. And what I want to do is now share with you 6 of those conditions. You could call them conditions, we could call them principles, we could call them approaches, but I actually don't like the word approaches. I think principles works better because in many ways what it does, it says to us, there are certain ways of working with communities that empowers communities, that recognizes that communities are local experts who, with the resources, can act on their lives. So these principles also draw from the research we do, because we learn from the research we do. And that research, in a very simple way, is about monitoring what intervening in the lives of communities, the lives of women and girls, looks like and what it does. So the first one is participatory approaches. A key step in community engagement is to involve communities from the onset. And this means including their thoughts, their ideas in how we define our programs, how we work with them, how we learn what matters to them, how we build relationships, how we build trust, how we understand community thoughts and dynamics, and therefore set about or seek to set about amicable, supportive, and safe ways of engaging around gender equality and the eradication of violence against women. So that's the first approach, working in a participatory manner. The second is engaging those most affected by gender biases and social norms. And I think you've heard this mentioned already several times.
And in particular, it's about working with girls and women. For the TGG ALM program, girls are at the center of our initiatives. Because it is so important to remember that the voices of those most affected by any gender biases or social norms must be at the center of how we frame, how we work, how we resource, and what it means to work with girls and women. And we've developed various mechanisms for making this very effective. The third condition that we're learning around how do we mobilize communities to transform social norms and challenge gender-based power dynamics is to engage with local influencers, local leaders, champions, and survivors. Most communities, we take note, have community gatekeepers. And this often are council of elders, age-set groupings, religious leaders, as well as influencers. And it can be very challenging because it means you have to give thought to how do you enter communities? Because they will be at the forefront of how we engage and work with communities. But I also want to stress here that it's about engaging with survivors, those who've undergone the practice, because they get to name what those obstacles are, what those challenges are, and what they need. The fourth approach to share with you, or mechanism or condition, is collaborating with local organizations. That was highlighted in the video we just showed. We believe local organizations already working in gender-related spaces have local insights. Pooling their expertise and resources together has shown to increase impact because they create the necessary united front against gender biases in communities. The fifth condition is the use of community-based interactive but very targeted media. And examples here include cultural events, community radio, the arts, and increasingly social media, particularly with youth. These have become important mediums of communication in terms of initiating the mobilization needed for communities to begin to move forward. The last condition to share is sharing tools and resources. Tools and resources form an important critical way of mobilizing communities. TGG ALM has developed diverse tools with how to engage with communities, how to engage with girls, and how to engage with survivors. And all of these tools we now know, just from the work of monitoring the work that we do, and in the ways in which, and learning from the ways in which we intervene in communities, show that they actually do work. So what I'm sharing with you are those conditions for which we have data, for which we have evidence around what works in terms of working with local communities. And it's about fundamentally how you mobilize communities to do the work themselves. But to do so, we've learned you need to put in place safeguarding, because remember, this work often raises risks for women and girls. It also means that you've thought about what is the nature of the resources needed. Resources are not simply funds. Resources are also technologies. It's also sharing the lessons you're learning. It's about strengthening capacities that may already be there but need to be strengthened further. And it's about paying attention to what do you need to do to ensure that girls and women actually do participate, given the roles and responsibilities they carry in those communities in which they live. So I'd like to end there by saying just one final comment, that yes, we have made incredible progress, but we do continue to be challenged, and we continue to be challenged essentially on three fronts. One, populations continue to grow. Two, our political and economic environments can be very constraining. And three, unexpected environmental challenges are continuously present in the communities and environments in which we work. Thank you very much, Femi.
Thank you. Uma, Kairi, Jallo, you have been so patient. So patient. Thank you for that. Uma is from the Young Girls Leaders Club of Guinea, and she will tell us what girls' clubs can do in communities to help eliminate FGM. Over to you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Donc, I come from Guinea, where to be a woman, one has to be to go through the cutting. I am the executive director of this civil society organization in Guinea that has, there is something that we have in common. It is sad when I tell you, and they like to travel, they want to be to ride horses. What we have 90% of the girls, we are victims of FGMs. We said what we keep of this, what we have in our memory, when we were held by the hand and we went through this, and we have gathered together because the pain was immense, that our sisters and other girls should not live what we went through. For in my home in Guinea, all communities are rushing to do the cutting before the 10th birthday. And then even if you die, they want you to die as, in quote, woman and cut already. The traditions are strong and prevalent, and that's why we wanted to act on awareness raising and reaching over 500 men and women about these issues of FGM. These community campaigns where we talk to the leaders and especially the mothers that do practice the cutting, and we are stigmatized and we are offended because of the practice. The practice is very, very deeply rooted in Guinea. So when you are cut, it is an issue. And for the minority who aren't, it's another issue, because this minority does not have a place in society. If you have been cut, you have been violated, you try to build yourself, you try to reintegrate society. When you are not, you have to flee the community, you have to change maybe a country because you don't have room. So the battles that we are carried out to support the victims should be the same for the ones who are not gone through FGM. Those who think that the cutting is harmful, they do it just to have a place in society. So some work, and the needs are at every level. And Cirque, for those who have gone through it, so who did not. In my community, the cutting of girls, it is a job for some women. So for me, in my organization, we try to support over 300 women of old women who carry out that practice, so that they would be ambassadors and they would have other activities that would generate revenue. As I have said earlier, that the needs are immense, that we have to protect the victims and to prevent violence. That's not enough. We have a line which would be listening to them and or taking care of them medically, because sometimes they need some intervention, but we are overwhelmed. We don't have enough place for everyone, and the resources are very limited. in my country, we need to have as a priority is to invest not only the victims, but also for those who are not. Otherwise, we will have an increase in the number. So what we have noticed in many communities, that the trend will go upwards and not downwards. So every time we discuss new policies, we are already far behind while I talk. I know that in my village right now, there is a girl that's being cut. The discussion is good, solutions are great, but it's very important to accelerate. So another girl from Guinea did not go through what I have been through, could be protected, and would have her place in the community. And I thank you.
So I know that Caleb is able to adapt to circumstances because he leads the grants mechanism at the Girl Generation that provides small grants to build the capacity of grassroots women-led, girl-centered women's rights and youth-led organizations and activists to end FGMC. So I know, can you show everybody, just show your notebook to everybody. Right, yes. Actually, no, open the page. Right, those were the notes that Caleb was going to use. But he's going to speak from the heart and be passionate because you live your work in 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
It's not about the speaking, it's about the action, Caleb.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, I'll talk about resourcing for the survivor-led movement. And when we talk of resources, we are talking about financials and non-financials. And first of all, I want to appreciate our survivor, how she's talked. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of confidence to talk in front of people. And we have to take this forward, yeah? It's not easy. Now we ask ourselves, she's talked, what happens next? And that's where I'm coming from. We need to resource the survivors. And one of the first area we want to look at is to provide them with direct, flexible, and accessible funds. And when I talk of direct funding, I mean they have to be given funds because they are at the grassroots level, they have to get funds. And when I talked of accessible, I'm not talking about the conventional way of us going through the applications and making sure that they have all the capacity for them to apply. We are making them apply for these funds through a simple way. That's what we are doing at the Girl Generation. We make it as simple as possible for them to get these funds. At the same time, we have to trust them to be the change makers at the grassroots level because, as she said, they are the shoe wearers. They feel and they are the people who can do a community. They can ensure that there are changes at the community level. The other area we have to look at is to capacity build them. How are we capacity building them? We are building them, ensuring that the organizations they are leading, they have the structures and the systems in place for us to be able to support them and also to manage the risk in terms of how we fund them. The other one is on the leadership skill. How do you make sure that they are well funded emotionally? Because for you to talk here, you must have gone through a training. You cannot just talk. How do you ensure that they are emotionally supported and they are able to take this message to the villages they are coming from? Those are some of the resources I'm talking about. And when we talk about sustainability, giving them funds is one thing. How are we going to sustain them? Yeah? How? We have to think about what happens when the funds are not there. Because they are part of the community, we have to think of giving them long-term funding. And this long-term funding, it means that we have to give the trusted grassroots organizations who are at the community level, who can report to us, and we'll be able to track and be able to see that whatever they are doing at the grassroots level is what we expect them to do. Because giving out money is one thing, and also making sure that there's changes happening at that grassroots level is another thing. Then the other thing is about ensuring that there's that collaboration and connecting them to each other. They have peer groups where they learn and they be able to share ideas on how best, because the survivors cannot work alone. We have survivors around. As individuals, we have survivors as institutions and also as movements. Okay.
That is a brilliant line to end on. And the audience will applaud that end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. CSW 68 goes on beyond this room, everybody. We can take Caleb outside and have a one-on-one conversation. It is well worth it. Nankali Maksud is a senior advisor focusing on the prevention of harmful practices at UNICEF. Caleb has left you 1 minute to close. I tried to help you, but he wouldn't allow me to. But I know because this is your specialist area, you know how to wrap us up beautifully. Please, Nankali, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Femi. On behalf of myself and my sister Wisa here from UNFPA, I only have one thing to say, which is thank you, Amran, thank you, Umu, for coming here to be with us, for sharing your voice with us, for sharing your experience, for sharing your learning. This couldn't have happened without people like you. And so please, can I invite everybody in the room to stand up and clap for these two.